The command hall of the Dravarian Dominion shimmered with blue tactical light, its walls alive with star charts and drifting symbols. Commander Xalvor stood in the center platform, his obsidian-scaled skin reflecting the glow like polished armor. Around him, dozens of decorated officers watched in rigid silence as the projections shifted to highlight a small blue-green orb far away. The Dominion Overcouncil soon materialized above them, their spectral images hovering like translucent giants. High Strategist Marek, her 4 pupils contracting sharply, addressed the hall in a voice that carried unquestioned authority. Commander Xalvor, reconnaissance has detected a young species on a planet designated Terra. They exhibit basic technological signs and are not listed in the Stellar Compact records. Such civilizations must be brought into order before they become unpredictable. A hush fell. Everyone expected the same outcome: quick conquest, light resistance, another easy mark on the Dominion's conquest ledger. Xalvor inclined his head. What level of development have they achieved? A young analyst activated a datasphere. Images of humans bloomed in the air, soft flesh, no natural armor, bipedal, visually unimposing. The room responded with quiet laughter. Early plasma casters, projectile weapons, limited orbital stations, the analyst recited. No faster-than-light capability. No energy shielding. Fragmented into countless tribes and nations. Their species cannot even unite amongst themselves. Primitive, muttered a veteran officer. They won't last a full cycle. Xalvor considered the report, but only shallowly. The Dominion had overpowered 50 civilizations in the past 4 centuries. None had ever resisted their first strike. Terra seemed unlikely to break that pattern. The Council asked, "How large a force will you require?" 200 warships, Xalvor answered confidently. More than sufficient. The Dominion should demonstrate strength, even against lesser opponents. Approval flickered across the Council's holographic visages. Then it is decided. You depart in 3 cycles. The chamber dissolved into excited chatter. Officers bragged about how quick this campaign would be. Someone even joked about adding Terra's continent shapes as victory markings on their hulls. But standing near the projection podium was Cadet Rylus, one of the youngest and sharpest minds in the room. Her emerald scales were still bright, unscarred by battle. "Commander," she said quietly, "does this not feel incomplete? The data comes from a single scout that only glanced at their system. Should we not gather more information before assuming they are helpless?" Several older officers scoffed. But Rylus persisted. "Every species we ever engaged was studied for months. This is based on ours." Xalvor gave her a steady look. "Cadet, their lack of FTL reveals all we need to know. A species trapped in its own star system is no match for us." Rylus bowed, but worry lingered in her eyes. If only someone had listened. Because Terra was nothing like they imagined. As the Dominion fleet prepared to depart, deep within the Sol system, humanity was already watching them arrive. What they expected to be a simple conquest would become something else entirely. The Dominion fleet surged into faster-than-light transit with ceremonial precision, their engines carving silver arcs through the void. Officers toasted their impending triumph. Songs of past victories echoed in the corridors. And yet, none aboard those vessels suspected that every second of their journey was being recorded, by the very species they believed too primitive to understand them. Far across the darkness, in the heart of Earth's hidden defense network, Commander Serena Hale drifted weightlessly inside the orbital command core known as Aegis Station. Hundreds of operators floated at their consoles, working in synchronized silence. Every manner of sensor data, energy signatures, and trajectory analyses lit the surrounding holopanels. "Status of the incoming armada?" Serena asked, her tone razor calm. "Tachyon trail confirms," replied Lieutenant Dasher, pushing a hologram forward with a swipe. 200 warships. "They've dropped out of FTL exactly where we predicted, outer Kuiper line. Velocity increasing toward inner system." Serena nodded once. No fear. No surprise. Only readiness. Humanity had been preparing for this day far longer than the Dominion suspected. "Project how long until they cross Mars transit," she ordered. 72 hours, Dasher reported. Assuming they maintain current burn. It was almost humorous. Almost. The Dominion believed they were stalking unsuspecting prey. But humanity had started studying them the moment a cloaked probe intercepted their earliest transmissions from deep space. What the aliens thought was secrecy had been undone by a century of buried human technologies. A century the rest of the world believed did not exist. Officially, Earth still struggled with basic interplanetary travel. Officially, FTL remained a scientific dream. Officially, the nations of Earth were fractured and disorganized. All lies. Necessary lies. Decades ago, humanity had unlocked quantum leap propulsion physics. But the same ingenuity that led to breakthroughs also saw the danger. If the technology were revealed too early, the world would descend into a new, catastrophic age of militarized chaos. So humanity hid their progress, not from aliens, but from themselves. Serena entered her command code into a hidden interface. The system matrix shifted, revealing what outsiders believed did not exist. Earth's true defenses. Thousands of orbital constructs flickered into view, platforms cloaked beneath adaptive invisibility, dormant but waiting. Rail emplacement satellites positioned above the magnetosphere. Directed energy arrays suspended between lunar stations. Swarms of autonomous drones sitting in cryo-rest until activated. "Grid check," Serena called. Colonel Ibrahim responded sharply, 17,000 defense platforms fully primed. Rail-slugs loaded. Beam arrays calibrated. AI synaptic network online. And the stealth minefields? Camouflaged and drifting exactly as planned. They will not detect them. Serena's gaze hardened as she looked upon the blue marble that hung silently below them. Humanity had united not out of idealism, but out of necessity. Every nation, every alliance, every hidden research colony, each had contributed to the fortress Earth had become. An incoming transmission alert blinked. "They're broadcasting," Dasher said. Serena folded her arms, preparing to hear the arrogance of a species who believed itself unstoppable. And indeed, the message came, superior, bored, commanding. "Primitive inhabitants of Terra, you are ordered to submit." The command deck fell into controlled laughter. Serena switched channels and spoke into the void. "We are not primitive. And we do not kneel." The Dominion believed humanity was bluffing, but their sensors had yet to reveal the trap waiting to be sprung. What would happen when the fleet crossed the invisible boundary of Earth's kill zone? Commander Xalvor stood at the center of his flagship, staring at the human response with disbelief. Their tone was steady, their confidence unsettling. Yet the Dominion scanners showed nothing unusual, only scattered satellites and crude orbital debris. "A hollow bluff," muttered Weapons Officer Dranik. "They are cornered animals making noise." Xalvor wanted to agree. It was easier that way. Maintain formation. Prepare initial strike. We disable their orbitals first. Understood, Commander. 200 Dominion warships advanced in flawless symmetry, shields burning with pale light. Plasma cannons charged. Engines hummed with the sound of assured victory. Then, everything changed. "Commander. I'm detecting anomalous energy surges," the sensor technician whispered. "All around us." Xalvor frowned. "Define anomalous." I can't. They're everywhere. Hundreds, no, thousands." Before he could demand clarification, the dark emptiness surrounding the fleet shimmered. And then reality tore open. Shapes burst into existence, metallic constructs emerging from cloaked states so perfect that not even Dominion quantum scanners had sensed them. Behind each structure, a momentary ripple of distorted space exposed how cleverly they had been hidden. "What are those?" Dranik gasped. A cold realization sliced through Xalvor's chest. Weapon platforms, he breathed. Thousands of them. Evasive action, now. But the order came too late. At 3 seconds into the encounter, the first projectile struck. These were not plasma bursts or energy lances. They were physical slugs, hyper-accelerated beyond reasonable limits, metal rods traveling at a third of light speed. No explosive charge. No fancy technology. Just physics weaponized to the brink of madness. Ships vanished in white flashes as their hulls disintegrated under unimaginable force. The shockwaves tore fighter wings into molten shrapnel. Shielding collapsed instantly, as though it had never existed. 40 vessels lost, someone screamed. In under 8 seconds. Return fire. Xalvor roared. Dominion cannons unleashed a storm of plasma, but the human platforms moved in choreographed patterns, shifting in microsecond perfect arcs. They weren't piloted, not by biological minds. AI coordination, Xalvor whispered in horror. On this scale. At 15 seconds, new beams activated, narrow energy streams that carved through Dominion armor like paper. Fires ignited. Compartments vented atmosphere. Entire cruisers split apart, floating like severed limbs in the void. At 23 seconds, Xalvor's heart froze. A human energy beam sliced directly through the scout corvette where Cadet Rylas served. Her ship collapsed inward, glowing white, and then fragmented into dust. She had been right. She had sensed something none of them understood. He had failed her. At 31 seconds, everything grew worse. Commander, our ships are firing on each other. What? Human code is in our network. They're overriding our systems. Screens exploded in sparks. Dominion vessels began firing at allies, attacking weak points with surgical precision. By 42 seconds, the fleet was no longer fighting humans. They were fighting their own hijacked machines. By 50 seconds, spatial mines, undetected and terrifying, detonated. Warp drives collapsed. Reactors tore themselves apart. Ships folded in grotesque directions as spacetime ruptured. By 60 seconds. The battle was over. 200 Dominion warships had become 11 drifting carcasses in a silent graveyard of twisted metal. And the human weapons went still, like predators watching their kill. The Dominion had entered the Sol system believing humanity weak. Now, with his fleet shattered and hope fading, Xalvor would soon face the one thing more terrifying than the enemy's weapons, the humans themselves. The Dominion flagship drifted like a wounded beast, lights flickering, corridors filled with smoke and silence. Emergency grav stabilizers hummed weakly as Commander Xalvor leaned over a damaged console, staring at the hollow remains of his once mighty armada. 200 warships reduced to 11 powerless shells. In 1 minute. A sound cracked through the static, an incoming transmission. The same calm, steady human voice that had warned him once before. Commander Xalvor, it said, your fleet has been neutralized. Power down all remaining systems and stand by for boarding. Resistance will result in the destruction of your surviving vessels. You have 30 seconds to comply. Xalvor looked around at his ruined bridge. Officers lay injured or unconscious. Fires sputtered in exposed conduits. He saw no path to victory, only the crushing weight of a mistake too enormous to comprehend. Deactivate all weapon arrays, he ordered quietly. No one argued. Minutes later, metallic footsteps echoed as human boarding teams entered the flagship. Their armor was sleek, adaptive, glowing faintly with lines of data. They did not threaten, nor mock, nor flaunt their victory. They simply moved with the discipline of those who understood war's price. Xalvor was escorted to a clean, brightly lit chamber, far gentler than any interrogation room he had imagined. No restraints. No intimidation. Just a table. 2 chairs. Across from him sat Commander Serena Hale. She looked tired, not triumphant. Her eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen too many conflicts. "How are your injuries?" she asked. Xalvor touched a bandaged gash on his arm. "Your medics treated us," he said slowly. "Even after what we attempted." "We treat soldiers," Serena replied. "Not enemies. There's a difference." Her words hit harder than any weapon could. With a gesture, she activated a holographic display. Earth appeared, blue oceans, swirling clouds, continents scarred yet beautiful. "Before you invaded," she said, "you believed we were fragile. Unprepared. Divided." She turned the hologram, revealing ancient war footage, mushroom clouds, burning cities, ruined landscapes. 50 years ago, we nearly ended ourselves," she continued. "Nuclear winters. Bioplagues. Civil wars. Billions gone." Xalvor's scales tightened in shock. Not even Dominion archives held such brutal self-inflicted history. "But we survived," Serena said. "And we learned. Painfully." The hologram shifted again, now showing massive orbital stations, hidden shipyards, secret training facilities built over decades. "For half a century," she admitted, "we prepared for the day something out there would come to conquer us. When our deep space probe intercepted Dominion transmissions 3 years ago, we simply learned who it would be." Xalvor's throat tightened. "You studied us. Every ship. Every tactic. Every weakness," she confirmed. "And we built counters for them all." He felt the truth settle like a heavy stone. Humanity hadn't outmatched the Dominion by luck. They had done it through relentless, obsessive preparation. Serena's expression softened. "Xalvor, understand this, we don't want war. We want coexistence. But if war is forced on us, we end it quickly. Because humans adapt." Xalvor lowered his eyes. "What happens now?" "You go home," Serena answered. "And you deliver a message." Her gaze sharpened. "Earth is not a target. Not prey. Not primitive. If the Dominion comes again with blades drawn, we will not hold back." Xalvor would leave the Sol system carrying humanity's warning, but across the galaxy, rulers of the Dominion were already reacting. And their next decision would reshape the stars themselves. Xalvor sat in silence as the human transport guided him toward the edge of the Sol system. The ship was smooth, quiet, its engines emitting none of the thunderous pulse Dominion vessels relied on. Human technology felt alive. Adaptive. Every panel responded to gestures with fluid precision. Even the air smelled cleaner than anything aboard his own flagship. Across from him, a single human guard watched without hostility. There was no arrogance, no mockery, just vigilance. A warrior doing his duty. Xalvor turned his gaze to the viewport. Behind them, Earth rotated peacefully, a jewel wrapped in blue. It was difficult to believe that the species living on that serene world had defeated 200 Dominion warships in less time than it took a star to flicker. Difficult, but undeniable. As they exited the heliosphere, the human officer spoke. "Your ship is ahead. We restored partial power and left coordinates for your return route. Your surviving crew has been treated and transferred." Xalvor bowed his head slightly. "You could have executed us. Many empires would have." "We're not interested in blood," the guard replied. "Only survival." With that, Xalvor was escorted onto his battered flagship. Systems flickered, but the engines hummed again. As his bridge crew took their positions, he felt both gratitude and dread. Gratitude toward humanity's strange mercy. Dread for what awaited him back home. The fleet limped into Dominion space weeks later. The moment Xalvor stepped into the grand hall of the Over-Council, whispers erupted. The last time he had stood there, he departed with confidence and pride. Now, he returned as the commander of a broken fleet, bearing a message none of them wanted to hear. Commander Xalvor, High Strategist Marek said sharply, explain why your victorious fleet is reduced to scrap. Xalvor activated the holos. Data appeared, recordings of the hidden human platforms, the rail-slugs traveling at relativistic speeds, the AI-coordinated attacks, the hacking infiltration, the spatial mines, the decisive one-minute slaughter. At first, the council didn't speak. Then Marek hissed, this is impossible. No pre-warp species could wield such firepower. They are not pre-warp, Xalvor said firmly. They are hiding their progress. Their technology surpasses ours in many fields. Their discipline is absolute. And they do not wish to be our enemy, yet. The room erupted into arguments. Deception. Fabrication. Impossible. Human trickery. But Xalvor silenced them with one final transmission, a recording of Serena Hale's warning. Her voice filled the chamber. We do not seek conquest. But if you come with force, we will end the war before it begins. The hall fell into suffocating quiet. Marek's eyes narrowed. You bring us fear instead of victory. I bring you reality, Xalvor replied. If we threaten Earth again, we will not return. The council exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time in centuries, they faced a species they could not bully, intimidate, or measure. A species that had survived itself. A species that had prepared in secret. A species fully capable of becoming a galactic superpower. And then, in the darkest corner of the hall, a new voice spoke, one of the silent regents, the true power behind the Dominion. Commander Xalvor, the regent said slowly, you will lead a delegation. Not a fleet. Not an armada. A delegation. The hall gasped. A peace delegation? No, the regent said, eyes gleaming. A negotiation. For alliance. Xalvor felt hope, fragile, unfamiliar, flare in his chest. Maybe this was humanity's true power, not the weapons, not the technology, but the ability to change the course of an empire without firing another shot. Because while the Dominion debated whether to fear Earth or befriend it, humanity had already begun preparing for something far greater. Another signal from deep space, far older and far more dangerous than the Dominion itself.